Hey everyone, Shoebox Legends here. Thanks for joining me for another video. As you can tell by the two empty stands in front of you, today's video is going to feature a pair of cards that I picked up recently, and these are going to be from the realm of hockey cards. So I know hockey isn't for everybody. Personally, I'm a huge fan of the sport. I played ice hockey from grade school all the way growing up through high school, and still a major fan of the sport to this day. And outside of baseball, it's probably the most represented sport in my collection. So you'll certainly see your fair share of hockey cards on this channel over time, but we'll start today with just a pair of them. In case you're not overly familiar with or a fan of the sport, Upper Deck is the company when it comes to hockey cards. So much like Topps is the only company that's licensed to produce official, MLB trading cards, Upper Deck is the only company that holds a license to produce NHL hockey cards. They started all the way back in 1990 and have produced a flagship set every year since, right up to and including this year. So their flagship set is sort of akin to the Topps flagship set in the world of baseball. And in the same way that the Topps flagship set has some long-running parallels like Topps Gold, the Upper Deck hockey flagship sets do contain some parallels that have been around for some time as well and are sort of continuous from year to year. And today's two cards are indeed one of those parallel types. So let's get right into it here and take a look at the first card. From the 2019-20 Upper Deck hockey release, this is the Sidney Crosby Clear Cut Parallel. As the Clear Cut name implies, the big deal with these cards, or the big difference with these cards, is that they are made on an acetate or see-through plastic type material. So, Sidney here, the full color photo of Sidney is the same as the standard card, but the material that this is printed on is acetate. And as you can see, the background is basically see-through to varying degrees depending on what the background subjects are. But here you can see in the upper left corner, for example, this woman in the stands is sort of transparent, whereas Crosby is solid on this card. So pretty cool concept. I mentioned in one of my earlier videos that I'm a fan of see-through or acetate as a kid who collected in the 1990s. I just thought these types of unique cards are sort of just fun and something a little bit different. And so I've been drawn to these clear-cut parallels from the recent Upper Deck sets for that reason. And these are actually very rare cards. So the seeding on these, at least for this 2019 release, and I believe for every year that they've existed, is one clear-cut parallel per 72 hobby packs. So with 24 packs in a box, you are only pulling one of these cards from every 3 hobby boxes that you open on average. And what's amazing about them in terms of their rarity is that every single player on the 500 card checklist has one of these parallels available. They do not selectively make these for, just the stars like Sidney Crosby here. If your guy is on the checklist in the flagship set, he has one of these acetate parallels. So when you look at the sheer number of them that are created and you take into account the rarity of pulling one, any individual player is incredibly hard to come by. So take Sidney here, for example, one of these every 3 boxes, but there's 400 to 500 of them, depending on, if the insert ratio includes just the 400 cards in the short set or all 500 cards, with the Young Guns rookies included. But let's just say, for argument's sake, because I don't know for sure, that it's just the short printed, the standard 400 card base set that is seated at these odds. Even if that's the case, you would only see one of these Sidney Crosby parallels if you opened 1,200 boxes of product. So that's pretty amazing, and basically means you would have to open 100 cases of 2019-20 Upper Deck to encounter one of these Sidney Crosby clear-cut parallels. So while they're not serial numbered, as some of the other long-running Upper Deck parallels are, I think they are equally rare, if not more rare, than some of those other parallels. And so these are very, very tough pulls. And I'm happy that I was able to acquire Crosby here. One more note before we move on to the other card. The backs of these are obviously impacted by the fact that they're acetate. Upper Deck could not go with the standard statistics and back lineup. If they did, all of that stuff would bleed through to the front and sort of ruin the front image. So what they've done is obviously modified the card backs and just put the player's name and a smaller subset of vital statistics sort of along the bottom where they can remain hidden. And then the card number has been inserted on the reverse side of the Upper Deck logo to prevent that from being seen on the front. So obviously the backs of these are significantly different. The fronts look very much the same other than the fact that they are transparent in nature. So there is Sidney Crosby from last year's release. And to accompany that card, we have his longtime counterpart and the guy who's generally thought of as the other generational player alongside Crosby of his era. And that is the Great Eight, Alex Ovechkin of the Washington Capitals. Alex is one of, if not my favorite modern NHL star to collect, because I love his game. He's one of the best scorers of his generation and one of the best scorers of all time in the history of the league when you look at what he's been able to do. But he also has other elements to his game. He's a bruising checker and he doesn't shy away from physical contact. I think that sets him apart from Crosby a little bit. Crosby's had better success, in terms of hardware, Stanley Cups, and his teams being successful. But I think Ovechkin brings sort of a harder element to his game that makes me appreciate him a little bit more. And also, for whatever reason, his cards are still very reasonably priced, especially in the present crazy market that we find ourselves in. Given that he is one of the most successful players in the history of the league, you can still find some bargains on his cards from time to time. So I really enjoy collecting Ovechkin, and you will certainly see a lot more of his cards on this channel going forward. But it's just this one for today. Just like the Crosby, here's the back of the Ovechkin card. Same deal. You'll notice on his card that some of the information from the back sort of bleeds through the front a little bit more than the Crosby, just because of the photo selection here. But that is what it is when it comes to these cards. So just a cool couple there that I wanted to share today. With the odds being what they are, you would have to open a couple hundred cases of product to guarantee that you would pull the two cards that you see sitting in front of you. And despite that, I was able to bring both of these home for, relatively cheap coin. I think Crosby set me back around $20, and Ovechkin was even less than that, maybe even only half that amount. So, to score these two superstars of the game today for, $30 combined plus some shipping and tax, I thought was a great deal. Always on the lookout for these clear-cut parallels. I do have some others in my collection that you'll be seeing on the channel. Either they're already here or they're in transit from a couple recent purchases that I've made. So you'll certainly be seeing some more of these Upper Deck clear cuts in the future. But for today, just wanted to introduce the concept and focus on these two, which I'm very proud to own. So that's all for now. Appreciate you stopping by. And as always, if you have any comments on either of these players or clear cut cards in general, I would welcome you to leave a comment, and I would enjoy hearing about it. Thanks, everybody, and we'll be back soon.